Kaceytron is already losing her lawsuit with Ethan Klein. We're going to get into the fact that she's already running out of money, and it looks like she is on her last legs with being able to defend this. Of course, this is a legal mindset where we teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney. This is the fast facts version, the quick and dirty version of the latest in legal news. So let's get to it today. Of course, we've got a PowerPoint presentation for you today, all on this and the facts specifically related to her monetary situation. So as you guys know, of course, we have Bond supervillain here, Ethan Klein, who is suing Kaceytron, Denims, and Frogan over there, and they're all being sued for the same infringement that was related to their covering of the Hassan Piker content nuke. Now, as part of this, they've been going through the process. They've been going through preliminary motions and going through. Now we're stepping into the era of almost discovery, where they're going to have to turn over documents. They're going to have to produce other things, which is very, very, very costly. And because of this, we just had an admission from Kaceytron.
We have raised just over $49,000 on my GoFundMe, bringing the total up to $54,000. In September, I made a settlement offer to Ethan for $17,500. This settlement offer that I made was in no way, shape, or form an attempt to make a payday. It was because the looming threat of financial ruin is a stress that I would not wish on to anyone.
Now, Kaceytron here on the left, who has repeatedly continued to, talk smack and continued to make, excuses and other things, but now is saying, okay, I'm running out of money and I'm making you a settlement offer for $17,500, right? So, you've got $17,500 on the table there. Is Ethan Klein going to take that? Absolutely not. In fact, he publicly rejected that, which is his right. You made the offer. If he wants to disclose that, that's his right to do that. That is, in legal terms, chump change. That is probably, not even what Ethan's paid to his lawyers so far. He's probably paid multiples of that in getting all these lawsuits out, right? So no real reason in my book for Ethan to settle based on that. And the other thing here is, remember, it's not just the money, it's the information that Kaceytron, Frogan, and Denims have, because the real power here is in discovery, particularly of those messages on Reddit and Discord. By exposing any of those group messages and those things they're saying behind closed doors, that is going to open up a whirlwind in terms of what's going on these Discords, on these Reddits, and what they're actually saying behind closed doors. In fact, things that might even be potentially criminal once they are revealed, particularly if they relate to any threatening or harassment or et cetera, right? And also the content creators that may be linked to that besides Kaceytron, Denims, and Frogan. But let's look at the status of where things are. And of course, this was a back and forth argument here with Anthony Sargon of Don't Worry Pod arguing with Zach Asmongold over here, saying, hey, just drop the lawsuits. You're ruining people's lives and the cycle. And then Zach Force coming back and saying, why would you do this? This isn't in good faith. These people weren't arguing in good faith. They're pretending to be the victim. And, this sort of argument about this not being about copyright and this being, a personal reason. Well, number one, it really doesn't matter if it was in the first place. But the biggest part, which Asmongold properly brings up, is this is not in good faith. And this was very clearly stated to be taking away from other videos, which is the crux of the legal argument here. The crux of the legal argument is that they were taking away from Ethan Klein's video. And that's really one of the biggest things out there, and one of the things that sets a precedent across the internet for what could be copyright infringement law. So just to take a look at the tracker here. So the three defense funds. So this is the defense funds combined between Frogan, Kaceytron, and Denims, which once again, they all have to pay their own lawyers, has only released $141K. Now that is a lot of money. That's nothing to laugh at. That's a lot more than a year's salary for many people. But in the civil litigation sphere, that's not so much. And if you break it down individually, Kaceytron has the most at 57, almost 57K, 56.8. Denims with 46 and Frogan with 38. Now, What does this mean? Well, cases of this size can average over $384,000 if they're brought all the way through trial. So going all the way through trial, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Discovery alone can cost more than 50K. So if we go back here, really Denims and Frogan barely have enough money. They may not even make it through discovery if it goes there. Kaceytron would barely have enough money to make it through. And it looks like with all the document production, et cetera, it might even be more than that in this case. It's a complicated case. It's got a lot of players, a lot of factors, so it could go over 50K. So once again, all of these players here, but Kaceytron specifically saying, hey, look, I'm running out of money, and these guys have even less money. It looks like they're really primed to lose the Ethan Klein lawsuit, if only for running out of funds and literally not being able to put up an effective defense. So at this point, you got Denims and Frogan, which may go broke before discovery, and Kaceytron, which barely makes it to trial. The best thing they can do, the best solution that they could possibly have at this point, is to come up with a creative settlement with Ethan Klein. I don't know what that is, but it's not just money. They're going to have to give up names. They're going to have to give up information. There's going to have to be some sort of alpha, some sort of additional thing that's added on above and beyond money that I think would make it would incentivize it for him to settle this, right? Maybe them coming out and giving public apologies, maybe them coming out and publicly retracting statements or issuing clarifications. But I think more than that, they're going to want those messages with Reddit and Discord. They're going to want to know what goes on there. So if Kaceytron is willing to turn those over voluntarily, maybe there would be an ability to reach an amicable settlement. But until the point where it is not just money, I just don't see any incentive from Ethan Klein not to push this out and not to continue and get exactly what he wants, which is the truth behind all that scenario and the scenario that went down with the Hassan Piker content nuke. So we'll see what happens, guys. What do you think will happen? I want to know what you know and what you think in the comments below, and I will catch you on the next one.